are a punctual lot. I don't think I have ever started a training session with this many people, with pretty much everybody already in the meeting for bang on 10. So thank you very much for that. Like Matt said, it's just I suppose a bit of a training session on the new UPP platform, which some of you will already be using. I know that some of you have chosen to migrate across to the new platform, and the majority of you are still on our legacy site. So I will give you a bit of an overview as to what that new platform looks like, some of the added functions that are in there as well. We'll run through some of the monitoring features of the website. And you know, if at any point you have any questions, please do shout them at me or pop them in the little conversation window, and we can run through those as well. So I will start by sharing my screen and hoping that everybody can see it. Oh, I think there was just a little. There we go. Can everyone see my screen? There's a few nods there.
I can see that. Yeah, you'll get the emojis coming because all the mics are muted. But I'll look for any questions coming through, Ella, and I'll feed them back to you.
Oh, fabulous! Thank you very much. Okie dokie. So this is the new UPP platform. I say new, it did launch earlier this year, and like I said, some of you will have already moved yourselves over to this platform and will have been using it day in, day out. But for the rest of you, this will be new. So this platform is off the back of a £3.2 million investment, and it's been a passion project for us, making sure that this, you know, at the time of launch was perfect, and did, you know, ticked all the boxes. And we listened to an awful lot of feedback from certain testing groups, and it makes life so much easier. This platform is leaps and bounds beyond what I could have ever hoped that it would be. And I know that credit reporting isn't exactly thrilling, but hopefully this platform will make, you know, this task a little bit less painful. So on this homepage, you will be greeted with your recent monitoring alerts. So any companies that you are monitoring, you'll be able to see the most recent alerts pop up here. It'll then be followed by your recently viewed companies. So if you have just been looking at a report and you think, oh gosh, I forgot to check something, you can just pop straight back into the report in this window here. You'll then have a little drop down. It is automatically set to United Kingdom. If you are searching for an international report and you know the specific country in which you're wanting to search, you can hit the drop down and select a country here. We now have 162 online countries. Any offline reports, of course, will go through NEUPC, and they will be able to provide those offline reports for you. But I imagine they are few and far between. So I'm just going to hop into a report. So I type the company name in there, and then what you'll get is initially your UK limited results, followed by your UK non-limited results, and then you will get a rest of the world search at the bottom of your screen as well. So even if you leave the drop down sort of as default set to the UK, you will still get international results showing up there. We've also added in company statuses, so you can see straight away whether they're dissolved, active, non-trading, and so on. And we've also got the addresses, so hopefully it'll save you from clicking through maybe 3 or 4 reports before you find the one that you're actually looking for. So I'm just going to jump into one of these reports now, and you'll be able to see the new look report that we have created. So a lot of this information is the same. You'll be used to seeing this sort of day in, day out. but we have added a few extra functions sort of behind the scenes to hopefully give you a little bit more information and a little bit more insight as to why we're coming to these scores and these limits. So first off, if you hover over this risk score number here, you'll have a little pop-up. And basically what that is telling you is your previous score, so you can see whether the last change was a positive or a negative one. And again, the same with the limit, we will give you the previous credit limit, so you can see again whether it's gone up, down, or stayed the same. We will give you the probability of default, and we'll also give you the odds of failure, so how likely the company is to go insolvent within the next 12 months. Now, on top of that, what we've also done is added in a ranking feature. And the main reason that we've done this is that we know that certain industries as a whole score higher or lower than others. So, you know, we don't want to alarm you within certain industries if, say, their risk score was sat at 40, because actually that might be a really high score for that specific industry. So you can see here that Tesco's score in the top 25% of other businesses that sit in the same sector of a similar company size, so their profile is a PLC. We then give you the international score. The main reason behind this is because we do operate globally and not all countries score from 1 to 100 like we do. So we want to allow you to directly compare an international report for, say, Austria to a UK report. So whether they score from 1 to 10, 1 to 1,000 or 1 to 7, you'll know exactly how that translates in terms of risk using the international score. And if you hover over it, it will give you a little bit more information around the risk factors involved. If you ever get stuck on any of these scores and limits, especially on the international reports and newly incorporated companies where the scoring systems are slightly different, if you click on this little score limit tab, it'll give you a little bit of a key as to what those scores translate to in terms of risk. Like I said, newly incorporated works slightly different. You've got your international risk bandings, and then you'll always have your local score key at the top here. So with the UK, it's 1 to 100. Your credit limits are obviously still there along with your contract limits. So your credit limits and the amount of exposure for a single invoice on a 30-day payment term. And your contract limit is the amount of exposure for longer term contracts. So if you're signing for a 12-month contract, this is the maximum amount of exposure you should have with that particular company. Again, they are, if you hover over them, there's a little bit more information around the credit and contract limits. You've then got your DBT information and industry DBT. So DBT, for those of you that don't use this, stands for days beyond terms. So we collect trade payment data, and other companies will tell us how well Tesco's have paid them, how quickly and for what amount. So on average, if you were to send out an invoice to Tesco's, they would pay you 28 days beyond payment terms. So if your payment terms were 30 days, they would pay you within sort of 58 days, which is a lot higher than industry average, because industry average is 4 days beyond terms. Okay, so we then head into the summary section. This is probably an area that lots of you have seen sort of day in, day out, so I won't go into too much detail, but it will give you key bits of information, your SIC codes, your VAT numbers. It will give you all registered company addresses, trading addresses as well. You will then have a little bit of additional information around filing dates for accounts and safe numbers, trade debtors, creditors, charges and land registry data. If you do want to go in and view any of that, you just click the little hyperlink to show more, and it will take you to the section of the website which will itemise all of those charges or information from land registry and so on. Now this company has 2 warning lines in place. Now these warning lines will always appear on the summary page, so they're right at the forefront, so you'll be able to see them straight away. And basically we put these warnings in place if there's any sort of red flags that appear. So this company has a profit warning that's in place, and it also has a directive failure warning in place. Again, if you click these little view more buttons, what it'll do is take you to the area of the website, which will give you a little bit more detail as to why that warning was put in place and the date that it was put in place as well, which I will show you a little bit later in this call. All of your CCJ data is still there. However, you've probably noticed that it is presented in a slightly different format. So what we do now is we'll tell you the total number of CCJs that are on the account for the past 5 years. We'll give you the total value of all of those CCJs as well, so that you can see just how much debt has got to that level. If you do want to see an itemised list, as you have on the previous website, it is still available. You just click this view more button and it will itemise every single CCJ, the date in which it was registered, the total amount, whether it's under judgment or satisfied, and if it is satisfied, it'll give you the date paid as well. Okay, you'll also have your ultimate holding company information, so a little bit of a brief overview. It'll give you, limit, turnover, score, and the company details, so safe number, registration number, company name. If you do want to go in and view the full report, it is hyperlinked, so you just click on it and it'll take you to view the full report on a separate tab. We'll give you key financials, so this is literally just a snapshot of the past 3 years worth of financials, just turnover, pre-tax profit, shareholders fund and employee numbers, along with the traffic light system, so you can see whether there has been a positive or negative trend across the past 3 years. But obviously full financials are still available in the financials tab. We then move to the payment information summary. So this is the data that fuels that DBT number that we give you. So clients of ours will share their payment history with all of their clients and suppliers. So we can see that the average invoice for Tesco's is just over £40,000. We've got 133 active invoices on the account. 131 are paid and 2 are outstanding. So we can see that the outstanding invoices sit within the 0 to 30 days beyond terms bucket. So they've passed the payment terms that were set out by that individual supplier. And then you can see just how many invoices were paid in the different debt-in buckets. This mainly is what we use to give our clients a little bit of more information around if a company is in distress, because if a company is in distress, before we start seeing, credit scores dropping, credit limits dropping, CCJs being filed, and and the inevitable, liquidation notices, we will start seeing this payment information and the DBT number creep up, because there is usually an issue with cash flow before it gets to that point. So as this DBT score goes up, oh, I think someone else has joined. As the DBT score goes up, the score will inevitably come down in line with that. We then give you this little commentary section. So the commentary section is probably the most used area by clients of mine that I have ran training sessions with. Sometimes it is overlooked slightly if we haven't sort of drawn it to your attention. I'm sure many of you use this commentary section as sort of a first port of call when you are reviewing credit reports. But basically what we're going to do is pull any areas of the report that are having a really positive or a really negative impact on the overall score and limit. And again, we use a traffic light system. If there aren't enough really positive things or really negative things, we will just give you some basic assessments on the company as well. So we'll tell you how we are rating the individual company, because we have 7 different algorithms. So we score different company profiles differently, because we understand that actually the things that impact a small business are very different to the things that will impact a large business or a PLC. So we'll always give you that information so you know how we're scoring a company. And then you can see that there's 2 areas of the report that are having a really positive impact for Tesco's. It usually sits within the financials that we're pulling this data from. So if there is something negative, within the financials, such as a company has a really high amount of outstanding short-term obligations or credit that has a really high amount of debt sat on credit cards and overdrafts, we will draw that to your attention if it is significantly higher than the amount of liquid assets that a company has available, for example. We'll tell you about that right here to save you having to go digging through the past 5 years worth of financials. And then right at the bottom of the screen, you will have your inquiry summary. So this is just telling you how many other clients of CreditSafe are viewing this report on a monthly basis. So you could view this report 10 times and it will only leave one footprint. So this is the number of separate businesses that are viewing this report that are clients of CreditSafe. So as you can imagine, Tesco's number is pretty high. 740 businesses have viewed Tesco's report over the past year. Do we have any questions come through, Matt, on the summary page, or are we pretty happy with that?
No, there's nothing there just at the moment. If anybody does want to ask a question kind of over in person or whatever, they can do that. I can unmute the mics, but yeah, there's nothing there at the moment. So
fabulous. So a lot of this to start with will be information that you're used to seeing anyway. It'll just be presented in a slightly different way, and a little bit later in the call we will get into the additional features that we've added as part of the new platform.
Sorry, Ella, I put my hand up so you know I was going to speak to you there. I've had a question come in. It says, does the summary page state their SME status?
Their SME status?
Yeah, so it's small, medium enterprise, so it's basically the size of the company.
Yes, so on this summary page, where it has the company profile, this is where you'll be able to see that. So if they register as a small business or a micro entity with Companies House, we will then score them as a micro entity. So you'll be able to see that right here. So this company files as a PLC, so we will score them as a PLC. So it'll say, micro, small, medium, large, PLC, non-limited, whatever it might be, it will be listed here for you. So we touched on the score and limit tab. It's just a little bit of a key if you do want to refer back to the score bandings and international scores and how they translate in terms of risk. So I'll jump straight into the Directors and Shareholders tab. Again, this is all information that you will have had access to with the previous site. It is just presented in a slightly different way now. It is much easier to digest this data. So we'll tell you how many current directors there are and how many previous directors and secretaries have been appointed to a company. We will also then list all active directors, and we will tell you how many other appointments they have. So if they sit on another board and have a directorship at another company, we will tell you about that here. And then if you do want to go and view all of the other companies that an individual is involved with, you simply click the name and it will pull a director report, and it will tell you, it'll list all of the businesses that they're involved with. It'll give you a little bit of information around the credit limit, net worth. If they do have any CCJs registered against them, it will give you that information as well. It will also give you any previous appointments that they have had. The main reason that we do this is we want to track any companies that we know are, or any individuals that are repeat offenders for joining companies in distress, and whether getting them ready to wind up or for sale. So we want to draw that to your attention. So I'm just going to head back into the full report. Okay, so you then have the secretaries listed here and the shareholders where we have the data available. You will also then have persons with significant control. So if there are any individuals or organisations that hold significant control over an entity, we will give you the information here, as well as a little bit of information around the control that they have. So whether that's a majority share in voting rights or a majority share in equity, whatever that might be, we will give you that information. And then if you do want to view any previous directors, they are available in this tab here. We all happy with the director tab? Say this is all information that you will have seen previously anyway, just presented in a slightly different way. I will head into financials now. So in this financials tab, you will have 5 years worth of financials. You'll only see 4 on my screen because I am doing this from a laptop, but if you are on a desktop, you will get 5 years worth. It is all works on a traffic light system. What we have introduced though is if you hover over each area on the left-hand side of your screen, it will give you a little bit of information around what we're taking into consideration, what areas of their financial data are going into each section. If I hover over them, I doubt they'll show up on your screen because it usually blocks pop-ups. But for example, if I hover over the one that I am now, it's coming up saying total payment made to directors for services as directors, for example. So if there are any areas that are a little bit of a question mark, just hover over it and it'll give you a little bit of more information around what we're looking at. Again, all of this is hyperlinked. So if you want to go straight to a balance sheet, click that and it will take you straight over to that area of information. Again, if you want to look at cash flow, you can go straight into that area of information as well. Pretty happy with that. So this is all stuff that you will have seen day in, day out. So I don't want to spend too long on things like financials because I think you'll all probably fall asleep. Fab. Okay, so we will head into the event history tab. And again, this is, I'd say, one of the most popular tabs across my client base because it basically will highlight whether a company is on a positive or negative trajectory over the past few years. Now, again, this has stayed very much the same. So you will have any triggers, so any changes that have recently happened, whether that's new accounts being filed, individuals leaving or joining the board. If there's been any changes to registered company name or address, they will also be listed here, along with if trade payment data is going to have an impact on the overall score and limit. So say 25% of the total invoices that we have been paid 60 days plus late, then we will put a trade payment data alert in here, and it will, as a result, have an impact on the scores and limits below. We'll give you details around any previous company names as well. So if you do have them in your ledgers under an old name and they've recently changed, we will give you that information. You'll get your score history, so you can track any trends along with the limit history. And what we're looking for is we don't want companies sort of that are really volatile, and one day they might have a 20 grand limit, the next day it might be 1.5 million, and then the year after it drops again. We're looking for a nice, smooth, hopefully positive curve forming across your supplier base. Are there any questions on the event history tab? Say, I'm sure you're probably well used to this one by now. Fab, I take that as no questions. Brilliant. So group structure. This again is probably something that you will have used day in, day out, but we've just changed the format of it to make the data easier to digest. So we will give you the total number of companies that sit within the group and across how many countries as well. We will give you the ultimate holding company, ownership status, and holding company of the business as well. It is all hyperlinked, so if you do want to go and view those reports, you can do. We then list all companies that sit within the group. We will give you the country, safe numbers, registration numbers. We'll give you information around the last set of accounts that were filed, scores, limits, and turnover where available. And again, all of this is hyperlinked, so if you do want to go in and view an individual report, then you can do. That is no problem at all. Right, the next tab is actually a new addition to this new site, and it is a negative information tab. Basically, skeletons in the closet. So anything adverse that's going on within a company and within a report, we've compiled it all together so you can go straight into the negative information and see anything adverse that is on the report. So, for example, any negative auditor comments will be filed under the company status, so you'll be able to view those straight away. All the CCJs will be listed here. Court writs, trade creditors will be listed, safe alert. So you may remember on the summary page there was those 2 warning lines in place. So the first one was for director failure. A director of this company has been appointed to was appointed to another business within the last year that has become insolvent. We will give you the name of the individual and a link to view that report of the company that went insolvent. So if you do want to go in and have a look, then you can. This will only stay in place for 12 months. After that, it will be removed. And then you've got your profit warning, which was the other warning line that was in place on that summary page. So it'll give you the date in which the warning line was put in place, so the summer last year, and a little bit more information as to why a profit warning was put in place for this company. You've then just got your image document, so if you do need any historical financial information, this pulls directly from our feed with Companies House and it is live. It will all be listed here if you do need to go further back than 5 years. And then the last ones are your payment analysis. So this is a bit more in-depth information around the trade payment data that makes this DBT figure here. So if you do want to run any analysis, whether that is regional by credit score, invoice value by sector, then you can view that here. And apart from that, that is pretty much all of the information that you'll be able to find on the credit reports moving forward. If you do need to save a report for any reason, you click this little drop down here, which is more actions, and then you can save a PDF. So you can either save a summarized version, the full report, or a personalized version. So you can go in and select the bits of information that you need included. If you want to start monitoring an individual company because you are working with them, you click this monitor button and it will pull up any monitoring portfolios that you have set up. So whether that's just one or if you have a few, you know, for suppliers in different sectors or different members of your team that deal with certain suppliers, then they'll all be listed here and you can add them into different portfolios. Once that is done, can you see this monitoring tab on the left hand side? You can go in and view the companies that you're monitoring. So if I click into profiles here, what it'll do is bring up all of the companies that I am monitoring within my default portfolio. But if you do have different portfolios, you can jump into each of them. You can then set up some analysis. So you can go, right, OK, out of our supplier base, how many of them sit within high risk, right? 22. Let's view a list of those companies. How many are non-rated? So whether they're dissolved, non-trading, liquidation, or they haven't filed their financials in time. So we've removed both their scores and limits. They'll all be listed here. They're all hyperlinked as well. So you can go in and view the full report just by clicking on the company name. And again, with high risk and moderate risk.
Hi, Ella. Sorry to interrupt. I just had a question come in. It's regarding the portfolio. So it's a. Sorry, just 2 ticks. I'm just scrolling back up. So yeah, it's around adding to the portfolio. So how do you add into the portfolio?
So if you're looking to add an individual company, you just go onto the report and click this monitor button here. You click on the portfolio that you want. And then that's you done. If you do have internal reference numbers that you want to add in, you can do here. And if you do have internal limits that you set for certain companies and you don't just go off of the limits and exposure limits that we have in place, you can pop them in along with any notes, you know, whether it's last time you check them or whatever it might be. You just add them in there and save changes and they will automatically start being monitored. If you do have automatic monitoring set up, so this little button here, if it is green, like mine is here, every single report that you view, it will automatically start monitoring that company. If you don't want that to happen, just click into your monitoring and switch that off. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's smashing. And presumably where we were showing there for adding to portfolios, is that the same place that we set up new portfolios as well?
So any new portfolios, you just head into this monitoring tab here. You click portfolio and then you can add a new portfolio here. So you can give it a name, so whether that's all suppliers, an individual's portfolio within your team, email subject line, so that might be CreditSafe supplier notifications, and then you pop the details in for each individual that you want to receive these alerts. So it might just be one person within the team, or you might all want to receive email alerts for changes within that portfolio. Once you've set it up, if you do have a number of companies that you want to batch upload, all you do is select the portfolio that you want, and then you can import. So you can either import from an Excel document, or you can do a manual import. So if you have a list of, say, company registration numbers, you just copy and paste them into here, click import, and it will automatically batch upload them into your monitoring portfolio. If you do have any issues with that at all, please just email me and I'm more than happy to help you out with it.
And the only other thing was the monitoring tab that you just clicked on, whereabouts is that on the page? Just so, how do we find it for the monitoring itself?
The monitoring, there we go, if I jump out. So it's just on the left hand side here.
Lovely, thank you.
Fab. So notification rules. Now I would recommend you go in and set some rules up in accordance to whatever your internal policy is around changes to your suppliers. Otherwise you'll be alerted to every single change that takes place within your supplier base. So even if a score goes up or down by 1 point, you'll be alerted. So you can go in and say, right, okay, we actually only want to know if a company changes risk bandings. So goes from, say, very low risk to moderate risk to high risk. Or you might say, right, okay, we want to know if a credit limit reduces by maybe 10%. Or drops under a threshold that you set internally, which may be 10, 20, 30,000 pounds, depending on how you operate. You can then go in and say, right, okay, we want to be alerted to changes of company names and addresses, but we don't really care if there's changes to the board of directors or a different telephone number, because you'll probably know that anyway. You can go in and change the rules around the scores. So you only may want to be alerted to an increase or decrease in credit score that is more than 10, 20, 30 points. And again, with the drop. Financial changes, you can choose what you want to be alerted to, whether you want to be alerted to a change of ultimate holding company. So if they've been sold and added to a new group. And again, all of the adverse changes, you can go in and select the information that you want to be alerted to. You might not want all of them. We're pretty happy with that. Fab. Once you've done all that, just remember to hit the Save Changes button. Otherwise, all of your work will be lost. If you do ever want to export any of the data, so you might want to see changes that have happened within the last month, you just go into this Exports tab and then click New Export, and you can check, determine your time frames then. Are we pretty happy with the monitoring stuff as well? Have any more questions come in, Matt?
No, there's nothing else there. I'm just scrolling down them now. There's a few questions, but I covered them off. So one of them was, do you need a new username and password? And I said it'll all still be as is.
Yeah, it will all stay the same.
Yeah.
You'll just log in the usual place through the CreditSafe website, but it will just automatically take you to the new platform.
Yeah, and I've got that. I've added that link on for the website into HE Contracts our end as well, so our members will know what that is, so they can go into HE Contracts and the links there. What else is there? Oh yes, is there on the monitoring report showing kind of the trends? And I touched on that there is that available in the advanced monitoring option, and that we'll be addressing those afterwards. But there is an option to do that in terms of tracking and so on. So I've covered that one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll hold a few separate training sessions on additional little bits and bobs that can be added. So if you are wanting to track trends that form, there will be a session to follow that will cover that.
And I also covered off that there was interest in the banking verification on that side, and I did say that we'd touch on that today, but it'd just be, we'd be running another session on that one, specifically around that additional new module. So that'll be, we were aiming for some time before Christmas, I believe, weren't we? So we'll try and cover that off then. Is that fair to say, Ella? Have I got the right end of the stick?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we do have a few members that are testing at the moment. So the feedback will be interesting, and say that will be something that we'll cover off in a separate session. So if it is something that you would like to look at, sort of bank verification in the future, then yeah, we will be helping you guys out with that.
Yeah, and there was just a couple of others. Is that will the companies get a notification that you are monitoring them?
No, they will not know. It's all anonymous. All that will happen is once you view them, they will be able to see if they are clients of ours, how many companies have viewed them, but they won't know which companies they are.
That's fine. And the only other one that I can see just here is why the risk scores, because why the risk scores are removed. So a report, somebody's just had a report, but it had no risk score on it.
So it will either be the financials are too old, the company is no longer trading. I will quickly share my screen and
thank you.
Show you where to find. So in this account here, in this area here, this company status, it will usually say, if there's no risk score, it will usually say financials are too old, no longer trading, winding up petition, in liquidation, whatever it might be here.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. That's smashing. Let me just see. Some more questions just come in now, Ella. So will there be training on the compliance part of the module?
We can absolutely run some training on the compliance areas if that's needed. Yeah, absolutely, no problem.
Smashing. Thank you very much. Let me just see. So from the previous agreement, as a user, we paid for reports from non-EU companies. Does this still apply? On the HE contracts, I've put in the details of what's included within the contract package and whatnot. So you'll be able to find the details of those on there. So some of them are chargeable, just dependent on where they are in the world, and also we'll have a certain number of them included, but after they have been used, they'll be charged back. So the process for doing that, it'll still be the same as it was before. Let me just see any other questions here. Oh yeah, any idea when the bank verification will be ready? I think you said it's already being tested by some organisations anyway, so it's reasonably imminent, but you'll have a better idea on the timeline than me, Ella.
Yeah, so it is something that is available already. It has been available for some time. It's just something that we've recently picked up, isn't it, Matt, as something that may be useful for you guys. So it is available. It is, you know, we do have some members that are wanting to sort of test it so that they can give feedback to you all. But if that is something that you're quite keen to look at, then please do drop me an email. And you know, we're always happy to chat with you about it, but we will do a full sort of training session around the bank verification tool.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, we're off the back of that as well, we're looking for some volunteers to kind of test drive it, if you like, but ultimately the expectation would be that if you do that, then there's the element of the feedback to CreditSafe, so you can, you know, let them know the pros and the cons, and it can be worked on. So that'll be that basis. But yeah, we'll pick that up as Ella said in a session of its own. Let me just see here. Is there an intention to give individual users a log on rather than an institution? That's a process thing from our end, and the answer to that is no, and simply because it becomes very difficult to track and to be able to make sure that all the different accounts are kept up to date. People leave, people change departments and whatever else. So the idea is that you have the generic sign-in, so multiple users at the institution can use it. But when the reporting comes through, we're just doing it from one place, so each institution has one, and it makes it easier for the tracking, basically. Are there different levels of access across the accounts? So are the super users versus basic access?
As far as I'm aware, all of you are set up the same, apart from those handful of institutions that have chosen to test out the bank verification.
No worries, that's fine. There was a question, is there an extra cost on the bank account verification? There will be, but that'll be dealt with as and when. It can be done, you know, institution to institution until critical mass is reached. And then if there's enough people interested in that, then of course we can look at the contractual arrangement and look at the potential for including that as a change control notice. But yeah, there will be a cost to it, yes.
Yeah,
and
it'll be very much volume driven.
Indeed, yeah. Indeed. And then, can you show how to request a report that is not available? I'm not sure.
So I take it this is for the offline reports, the fresh investigations.
Yeah. So ultimately, I think if that is correct, then the process of it effectively, there's a form that I've also attached to the HE contracts that the institution needs to fill out. Ultimately, give us as much information as you can on that form, who it is that you're looking for, any company numbers, VAT registrations, anything of that kind that's going to help us be able to find them, and then send it through to ourselves at NEUPC. So it's CreditSafe at NEUPC.ac.uk. And then we send that on to CreditSafe and they will process that, and then it will be recharged back to you, given the purchase order number that you provided at the time. So that's how that process works. And yes, no, I think that's all the questions thus far. I'm not sure if anybody. I'll keep an eye on them anyway, just in case. Was there anything else that you wanted to add, Ella?
Oh, I think the last one that came through was around charging for the new platform. The new contract is already in place, actually. So that's all been done and dusted. How that's recharged, I do not know. I don't get involved in that. That's for Matt to deal with.
Yeah, ultimately, as far as that's concerned, it's a new interface. So realistically, it's all taken care of in the contractual arrangement. So there's no additional cost if you wish to migrate over. In fact, everybody will be doing. And ultimately, it is a benefit to ourselves and also to CreditSafe if we're all on one platform, because it just makes life easier instead of having multiple versions floating around, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So if there are any further questions, please do feel free to give me a call, drop me an email. If there are any institutions that would also like to test out bank verification, please do drop me an email. We are looking for a few more as sort of this pilot that we're running, and as Matt mentioned, we'll also be running sort of some training information sessions around bank verification and bespoke monitoring, which is that monitoring that Matt referred to, where we track changes that take place. I can already see a hand up from Lynn around bank verification. And as you mentioned, if you're looking for a session on the compliance tool, then we're more than happy to run some training around the compliance and compliance monitoring as well.
No, that's smashing, Ella. Thank you very much for that. As Ella says, do feel free to get in touch with either directly with her. Her details are on HE contracts as well as the main point of contact. So if you need to get in touch with her, please do. Equally, feel free to use me as a conduit to have that conversation as well. If you'd like to come through myself, the central mailbox is, as I said before, CreditSafe at NEUPC.ac.uk. That's as good a place as any to send anything, just because there's multiple sets of eyes on it rather than just myself. But yeah, please do stay in touch with us. If there's anything else that you would like off the back of this, I mean, as we said, we'll look at the bank verification do a webinar session on that in the coming weeks. And we touched on the compliance side of it as well. So ultimately, if there's some appetite for that, we can run a session there as well. Just let us know. Effectively, just stay in touch with us and let us know what the requirements are. And if there's enough interest on a particular area, then I'm sure we can work something out.
I can see all the messages coming through on bank verification. So
yes, indeed, yeah.
The next one.
Yes, indeed. I mean, that's the thing. If we just keep track of who that is between us, Ella, just so we know who's doing what and all that, that'll be fine. Be good to get a mixture, just to see how folk find it. It's good to get some more information around that as well.
Yeah.
Yes, there will be the recordings of the session. It will be sent out to everybody. Yes, I think through Teams you can still access it through the sidebar as well. But I'll send a link on anyhow. So this will be stored centrally, and it'll probably be uploaded somewhere either on YouTube or on the website as well. So it'll all be there for people to refer back to from the various points that Ella showed us and any other information. Let me just see what these are coming in. Yep. Yeah, I think we're just getting some thumbs up from folks, so that's really good. So well done, Ella. It's
thank you very much.
It's no mean feat presenting to that many people, albeit virtually. But even so, I'm not sure if that's better or worse than in person. I couldn't really say.
Do you know what? I'm so used to it now, but it's always nice to have some good feedback and say I've managed to get through the whole thing with a 10-week-old puppy asleep the whole time. So it's
awesome stuff.
Absolutely, I'm absolutely chuffed. I was dreading him waking up and being a little monster. But yeah, thanks very much. Any questions, just drop me an email, give me a call, and I'm more than happy to have a chat with you individually.
And the same from me as well. So it's good night from her and good night from me. So yeah, we'll speak again soon, guys. Thank you very much for your time.
Speak to you all soon. Bye
Take
now.
care. Thank you. Bye bye.